Welcome to Jelly Trumpet!
Ready for the episode, Jim?
I was just thinking how lucky we are getting back in one piece from the last episode.
It was a close run thing.
We could have been stuck in that Japanese computer game forever, being chased by psychotic remote-controlled mini bears.
But we made it back to sunny St Albans.
Do you admit you pressed the wrong button?
Do you admit starting an episode with only a first draft of the script was wrong?
Well,
Well, Madame.
Your Majesty? Well, you see, this episode is the third draft.
Don't change the subject, Jim. You're always doing that.
I thought we were going to drop Her Majesty Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine back into medieval France.
The podcast engine ran out of steam and jelly trumpet juice. I'm looking into an alternative power source, a bit like the script.
We've a show to do.
Huzzah!
For God's sake, Nigel, cut that out. Mr. B, do something.
Nigel, ici?
Eleanor, Her Majesty, has been knitting something for Nigel.
But that's metal, not wool.
Chainmail, to be exact.
Chainmail for a squirrel the size of a St. Bernard? Why?
Protection. Nigel needs protection if he is to survive this thing you call un podcast amusant.
I know, we almost lost him. If it hadn't been for Nigel.
Now then, let's look forward. Let's get on with Jelly Trumpet.
Yes, the show must go on. We must give the world creative succour. Mr. B, the button.
I've got a new one.
Oh, God.
Coffee? Wait till you see what the new button does.
Why? Why a new button? Oh, God, no.
Reste immobile, Nigel.
Oh, all is lost.
For all mankind!
Welcome to Jelly Trumpet, the world's only comedy podcast about creativity. Jelly Trumpet makes you more creative with tips, tricks and ideas for expanding your imagination. Especially good for business people wanting to be creative online. In this episode, a checklist for being more creative called The 9 Trumpets of Creativity. Our 5th trumpet is Substitute. Challenge at Home, a creative exercise for you to try at home. And Challenge Jim, where Mr. B challenges Jim with an exercise in creativity. Plus, a brand new micro sitcom called The Startup, with our hero Mary, the entrepreneur, starring in an episode titled Seek Kale, Part 1, Part 2 later. And our very special guest will take part in Interview Countdown, 12 questions in 12 minutes. Trumpets of Creativity. Our 5th trumpet is Substitute.
This season on Jelly Trumpet, we're talking about the 9 Trumpets of Creativity. It's a list of 9 different ways of being more creative. Last episode, we talked about the Magnify and Minify tool. This episode, Trumpet 5, Substitute. There's a PDF of all the 9 Trumpets of Creativity, which you can download from the Jelly Trumpet website. We adapted this list of creative tools from Osborne's checklist, also known as Scamper. Why didn't we leave the list alone? Well, like you, we're pushing our creativity further than we ever thought possible. So we make up our own rules. Haha. If you listen to the first season of Jelly Trumpet, you'll know we made great play of keeping a journal of all our creative working. We called the journal Your Medicine. The idea is you build up your own tool chest of ideas, the journal becoming your creative coach. So here we go with number 5 in our 9 Trumpets of Creativity. Substitute. If you're a writer, you create characters. If you're in marketing, you create the campaigns. Visual artists create, well, stuff to look at. We're usually happy with what we come up with first time. Wait, that's not true. We want the very best, the most original. When something exists, it's easy to change it. It's even possible to start with a substitution idea. Okay, bring that idea, character, campaign to mind. What can you substitute? When writing characters, it's easy. Why not have that person a squirrel the size of a St. Bernard? Why not time travel and substitute a character for Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine? Why not substitute St. Albans for a Japanese computer game? What happens for me is endless fun, simply by making a substitution. What's the wildest substitution you can make? Say you're a painter, you paint a landscape. Why not substitute some part of that painting with a blank white space? Then how about projecting onto that space something with movement? You've made a moving picture with paint and a projector. The takeaway. Don't just try one substitute. As we said before, these tools or trumpets become even more powerful when you set a quota. Take the idea, generate 25 substitutions. You're bound to find a new imaginative angle. Well, I enjoyed that.
Yes, very interesting. I hope it helps our listener to try new things.
I'm feeling a bit sad.
How so, mon homme? Tristesse?
Oui, Your Majesty. I think it might be PPSS.
PPSS?
Post-podcast sadness syndrome.
Oh, arrêtez le cruel, chien imbécile!
It was quite a shock surviving the last episode of Jelly Trumpet.
I can get JB the singer out, you know. Short song from JB always cheers you up.
Worth a go, Mr. B.
JB, good boy. Out you come.
You never did tell me why you keep JB in the cupboard under your mixing desk.
I can't tell you, Mr. Jim. It's one of the mysteries of St. Albans.
Stay still, Nigel.
She spoils that squirrel.
JB, good boy.
JB looks a bit torpid.
He's just had his second bowl of semolina.
And why does JB only eat milk-based products?
Oh, it goes back to when we first found him running free around Verulamium Park, like a singer in search of a band.
You mean JB is a feral singer?
That's right. The only way we could get him out of the park and here was offering him half a dozen mini-milks.
I see. Well, we'll come back to that. What's JB going to sing for us?
He does requests.
Coming up, challenge at home.
Just how did you program a coffee machine to give the running order of the show?
Well, it wasn't easy, Mr. Jim. I had to remove the Russian hackers for a start, then add all manner of tools to make the best gizmo that, frankly, money can't buy. All in case, in case the podcast...
Oh, in case the draft script I've written goes wrong.
Exactly. Now, if I just offer JB a tummy rub, we'll get a song out of him.
Oh, he likes that.
Yeah, JB thrives on milk and tummy rubs.
I think I need a song to warm my mind and fill my soul with joy, Mr. B.
JB, sing One of a Kind.
Is she a bad girl, a sad girl, a mad girl? Yes, she is she just crazy? Lady, please don't betray me.
That's entered my soul, soothed my heart and uplifted all the fibres in my body.
Great! JB, back in the cupboard. Tapioca tonight. Who's a good boy? That's right, you're a good boy.
Funny how much a feral singer can change one's mood.
That and Rioja.
Oh yes, and Rioja.
Challenge at home.
You can illustrate this little exercise in any way you like, with words, with a drawing, some music, a clay pot even. Whatever your medium. Perhaps try a new medium. If you write, draw. If you make music, write a sketch or monologue. This exercise is to finish this sentence. I woke up this morning and... I remember being given this exercise at the end of a stand-up comedy workshop as homework. The next week I came back with a whole routine. It was one of those occasions when the exercise led to something greater. I finished the sentence like this. I woke up this morning and decided to rid the world of evil. A routine I wouldn't have had otherwise. The routine went on something like this. I woke up this morning and I decided to rid the world of evil. My method, superglue. The routine featured me gluing people to various things, like Instagram influencers to their mirrors, etc. The takeaway. I also learned something else from this exercise, to just start. When faced with a project, you have to start. You will never have the perfect opening line. So give yourself part of a sentence that is interesting and can be finished in any number of ways. You might hit yourself with an answer at once, or you may have to set a quota. Remember, you can always come back and change the line. The important thing is to start.
I'm a bit worried about this next part of the script, Jim.
Why is that?
It's a third draft, correct?
That's right.
One thing. Had you been drinking when you wrote the third draft?
What makes you think that, Mr. B?
Well, Mr. Jim, when you drink, you get very affectionate.
Do I?
Yes, you do. I have seen it. Nothing disrespectful. Your whole world floods with love. Amor et plaisir.
Had you been drinking, Jim?
No. I never ever drink and write or drink and drive or drink and read. Never. Wait. Oh, I may have.
Read the script.
Okay. Where were we? I see. Here we go. I love you, Mr. B. I really, really, really love you. And you're a wonderful queen, a really great monarch, the best. Nigel, music to my ears.
What we need is...
Draft 4.
Yes, we need him to write draft 4. In the meantime, let's put on the startup micro sitcom and we'll get Jim to write the 4th draft of this episode.
I love everyone. I really do. You're beautiful. I love you. I love you. I love you.
The Startup, a micro sitcom. In this episode, Mary the Entrepreneur is attending an Eating for Entrepreneurs course in some godforsaken office block in Bournemouth. Scene 1. A small group of people are gathered in a meeting room, a large screen in front of them.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm an entrepreneur.
Welcome to the Eat Yourself to Victory in Business course, Part 1. I am Klaus V. That's V for victory. Let's get started. Yes?
Is there Wi-Fi?
No. We will now start the process. Yes?
Can I leave the room for a moment?
Don't you want to see all before you fall?
Well...
The victory is in your hands, in your mouth, in your stomach, in your bowels. Stand. Repeat after me. I swear loyalty to the spiralizer, the smoothie, wheatgrass, avocado, and pledge that I, as a courageous eater, will always eat kale. Seek kale. Seek kale. Seek kale. What do we have on the screen?
Oh, it's a double mocha Victoria sponge frappuccino with whipped cream, sprinkles, a stick of marzipan, and on the side a chocolate croissant stuffed with an ice cream sundae.
That's right. Filth! We must seek out. Seek kale. Seek kale. Seek kale.
End of Part 1. Part 2 of the Startup later. Creative Rituals.
In Season 2, we're highlighting a book called Daily Rituals by Mason Curry. It's full of short essays about the rituals creative people have used in their lives. What a load of mad people creative are. I mean, the things they do to retain and carry on in their creative fields is mind-thumping. The commitment of some is beyond belief. Brothers and sisters, I give you one Mr. Anthony Trollope, novelist. This man wrote 47 novels and 16 other books. He worked as a civil servant at the General Post Office for 33 years. He was at his table every morning at 5:30 a.m. Someone brought him a cup of coffee, an old groom whom he paid an extra £5 a year. He also credited that coffee and that groom for his success. Trollope wrote for 3 hours before dressing and going to work. He had a watch on his desk and set himself the target of writing 250 words every quarter of an hour. I mean, wow. He started each session rereading the previous day's work, and then he was off. Now that's commitment. If he finished a novel before his 3 hours were up, he would immediately take a fresh sheet of paper and start a new one. The takeaway: can you train yourself, like Anthony Trollope, not to be distracted and churn out creative work at that rate for that length of time, all before your regular work? I believe you can. I found it hard to work longer than 3 hours, but I'm going to work at increasing my creative time every day. Without Rioja.
Coming up, interview countdown. Challenge Jim. Mr. B will issue Jim a challenge. And List of the Week. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the really creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives.
How is he?
He's dozing now. I don't think we should wake him.
What did you give him?
Extra strong coffee, 2 bacon sarnies, a bag of ready salted crisps and a Lion bar. Then more coffee and a picture of Cate Blanchett.
Cate Blanchett?
He loves Cate Blanchett.
Oh, there's a lot to love. Best wake him.
Jim, wakey wakey.
Where am I supposed to be?
Here, Mr. Jim.
Oui, here.
Oh no, not again.
No worries.
That is right. No worries.
The script.
We need another draft, Jim.
Yes, we don't know what we're doing.
Nigel does.
Here's your MacBook.
Here we go. 4th draft.
Looks good, Mr. Jim. See, Your Majesty?
He appears to have written... Oh, I don't think Jelly Trumpet has the budget for this.
What?
See here.
Effects. A knock on the door. Jim opens the door and in walks Cate Blanchett. Jim chap, we need to change this before we get to this bit. Cate Blanchett is dressed as...
What's wrong?
Jelly Trumpet is not wish fulfillment.
I see. You are right, Mr. B.
Write something else.
Here you go.
Effects. A knock on the door. Jim opens the door and in walks Cate Blanchett. Kate says hello and leaves for something really interesting.
What do you think?
Sounds about right.
hmmm.
Interview countdown.
In this edition of Jelly Trumpet, we have a special creative guest. We have Paul Alwoodson, professional actor and voiceover artiste. Now, Paul, we're going to do the 12 questions in 12 minutes. And
Okay.
if you achieve that, then you'll unlock the bonus question. So, without further ado, question one.
Okay.
What is your business?
Well, that's a very easy one, Jim. I'm a professional actor, so I do sort of stage and screen work and all that stuff. And I'm also a professional voiceover artist as well, award-winning, I might add, by the way. So I do all sorts of commercials, and then I also do voiceovers for like corporate projects as well. You know, corporate videos if people need that, and also help to script those as well if people need, help just at putting those things together.
Cool. Well, I mean, you're only done 30 seconds there, so that's great.
Okay, good. Done well there.
Let's move on. Mr. B will be happy. Less editing for him. So, question number 2. Who is your creative hero or heroine?
Well, I think the creative heroes of mine, I think, are the real creative artists that are real sort of self-starters. So they don't just wait for creative projects just to come to them, for example. A lot of actors, I think, they tend to wait until a project comes to them, and then they can then fire up and do what they do. But I really like the self-starters. So I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, do you know one of the ones I always keep coming back to? I always think he was a real creative talent that was so ahead of his time. Orson Welles, he lived a real creative artist's life. He did some brilliant things in his time. I think he was way ahead of his time as well. And he sort of drove pretty much all of them, I think. And like, you know, like most sort of creative people, not all of his projects were a huge success. You know, some of them were fantastic successes, and some of them were complete disasters.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I think we'll pick up on that in the bonus episode, because
okay,
all about him. So yeah, let's do that then. So when you start, how do you go about starting a project? Do you do the same thing every time?
Well, I think that the first thing that you do when you start a project, really, because as a creative person, you tend to have lots of different ideas. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to start something and then sort of drift off into another sort of shiny object idea which pops up a few weeks later. So I would say, for me anyway, the first thing I do once you've decided that you're going to start a project, for me, you start a project by absolutely committing to the fact that you are going to finish this project as well. This is not something that it's going to fizzle out in a few months when something else comes along, because that can happen quite a lot. So once you understand what the project is, what your role is, what is expected of you, which is probably, if it's your project, that you're going to lead this project, then I think you have to appreciate the fact that it's probably going to take twice as long and be twice as expensive, and then you have to commit to finishing.
Cool.
That's what I would say.
I like that. So leading on from that, to what degree do you map out your project? I mean, you've sort of touched on that, but is it a defined process every time?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say to avoid overwhelm, you do need some kind of structure for your project, for example. Let's just say you've got an idea or a vision for a project that you're going to work on, and then it will generally fall into phases. And it's really important that you then concentrate only in the phase that you're in. So just say, for example, that the creative project is to make a short film. So phase 1 would be to do the prep and the research. and you just concentrate on that for however long that you've set to do that. Phase 2 would be to write the script. Phase 3 would be to film the script. Phase 4 would be to edit and add music to the film. And phase 5 would be to release that script so that people could watch it. And but you don't think about phase 5 when you're in phase 1. You just concentrate on phase 1, and you don't get distracted by anything else at all. And I think if you build it up from there, it tends to have its own structure, and you tend to get things done because you're only concentrating on one element at a time, but it's the exact element that you should be concentrating on.
Lovely. I mean, that's very structured. So that leads on, I think you touched upon this as well, because you've been very accurate in how you do and being consistent in what you do. But how do you know when the project is finished?
Well, again, I mean, for example, in this one, you would be the end of a certain phase. I mean, providing you've got another phase to go on to. I mean, most projects come to a natural end anyway, but you would have to give yourself a deadline, for example. Just say, for example, we're in phase 2, we're writing the script. So how long do I actually think it's going to take to write the script? Let's say it's a 10-minute film. Well, if I say, do you know what, I think I can do that in a month, right? So obviously it's going to take twice that amount of time. So I give myself a deadline of 2 months, okay? And once those 2 months are up, or if you're writing a play or something like that, once those 2 months are up, then you really want to have started planning or organizing, if you like, the next phase. So that might be just to get a bunch of actors together in a room to read it. So that gives you a very real deadline to finish that particular phase. So, and the only other thing I would say is, a project does just tend to go on to the next phase, and then once that's released, that's it. It's once the play's up, once the thing's done.
You've moved on.
You've moved on.
You've
Completely moved on. Yeah.
So what's this is question 6. We're roaring through these questions. What's the best thing someone has said to you that kept you going when it was a bit of a struggle?
The best thing that I've ever heard, and it's best advice for all creative people. It was specifically for actors at the time, but it actually works for all creative people, particularly when your creativity is paying the rent, for example. Is if you're an actor and you go into an audition, what you don't want to do is you don't want to go in there and you don't want to try and get a job. You don't want to try and get approval. What you want to go in there is you want to go in there and you want to do what you do, which is to act, which is to present your work, which is to do the work that you do, you know, in the environment that the audition is in. And there is a real power and there is a real confidence in that. Once you start worrying about whether or not you're going to get the job, whether or not you're going to get the contract, what that does, that brings in a certain neediness, which can then hamper your creativity. So there's a brilliant YouTube video from Bryan Cranston that talks about this. Just Google Bryan Cranston advice for actors. It's brilliant.
Yes, I'm a great admirer of his. I like him a lot. Now, are you honest with yourself?
Well, I'm honest with myself as much as human beings can be, I think. We all have an ego. So we all try and be as honest with ourselves as possible. One thing I do try to do is I try and detach as much as possible so I can look at things objectively, and then I can work out whether I'm at fault. I mean, I think you kind of, you know, if you're driving something, you have to take ownership of it anyway, really, and you can't blame anybody else if things aren't going well. But I would say, yeah, if you can detach and look at things objectively as much as possible, I think that's taking a really good crack at being honest with yourself, I'd say. Good, lovely, succinct, well under time. Mr. B is going to like me even more because I've selected you as a guest. Good to know.
What's the proudest you've ever been of one of your ideas?
What I think is actually all of the projects that I have committed to and followed through on to completion. I think I mean, I think I'm proud of all of those, really. You know, I wrote a screenplay that took me 2 years when I was about 30 years old. It was never turned into a film, but I finished it, you know, and I'm extremely proud of that. I mean, and some of those projects that I've done, some of them have been really, really good, big successes, which is great. And some of them have, you know, literally stripped my bank account of all of its money. And I'm kind of equally proud of both of them because I took it to completion, because I never thought, I wonder what would have happened if I'd have done that.
Yeah.
You know? I know that that's happened, you know, yeah, whatever results, whatever things happen from it, you can always say, well, that was my idea and I've taken that to completion and I'm proud of what I've achieved.
So you're a completist. I like that. You've seen.
Well, I think you have
to a lot. You're good at finishing stuff.
Yeah. Well, I try to. I pride myself on the fact that I hate half-finished projects. I really do.
I agree. Absolutely. You should be proud. What is your next project?
Next project is dipping my toe into the world of producing. I've always wanted to be at the lead in a. I've never been it yet. A lead in a series, you know, like a Netflix series or Amazon Prime or something like that. And I've always wanted to be like a sort of film noir type stuff. Anyway, we've teamed up with somebody else and we've got 6 scripts which are ready to go. So at the moment we're working on a pitch for a streaming service, whichever, or maybe the BBC would take it up. Who knows? And what we've done is we have taken one of the key scenes from that and we filmed it. We filmed it over the weekend, and at the moment, over a few weekends back, and at the moment now, I'm editing it all together, just so that we can present this scene as part of the pitch, which is going to be so we can show it rather than just present somebody with a script and say, read this, and I hope you'll like your interpretation of it.
Yeah,
because it's very stylish. There's lots of excellent dialogue in there as well. So at the moment, we're working on putting together this pitch for a streaming service, and I'm editing it all at the moment.
Cool. Sounds very interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that when it's ready.
Yeah.
This is one I asked a teacher recently, which I've got a very interesting reply about. Should creativity be taught as a skill in school?
I think it should be. I don't know. I don't know too much about what they teach in schools. I think they should teach the importance of rehearsal. I think that would be something which I think the idea that creativity isn't something which is instant. I have this idea for it's not quite a book. It's more of a pamphlet, I would say. You know, the whole idea of, you know, life isn't a rehearsal, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, I think actually that sort of downplays the importance of rehearsals, to be honest with you, because a lot of great work can happen in rehearsals, you know, without the pressure of having to perform. So I would say, you know, you could treat life like a rehearsal process, which is because rehearsal processes can be really fruitful. You know, because you tend to be working creatively on something. There's not a sense of pressure that it has to be right, so you get to play a little bit more. There's a lot less distractions. You can focus on certain things. So I would say teach the importance of rehearsal as a way of being creative and not having to get it right all the time, you know, but to play with it a bit more.
Lovely. That's the first time I've heard that one. That's a very original thought, and I like it. Now, question 11. If a 10-year-old asked you, what one thing would make me more creative, what would you reply?
I think it's a tough one because I mean, children are pretty creative anyway, I think in general, but I think what I would say to them is go out there and get involved in creative projects. You know, get involved in all these things, a school play and a dance class or anything like that. But what I would say is don't try and be creative on your own. You know, don't sit in front of your computer necessarily and try and be creative. Get involved with other people. You know, team up with some friends and write some songs. But don't do it all in your bedroom. You know, go out there and collaborate, because I do think that what's happening now a lot of the time is that even bands are talking about this, where they used to go and rehearse and record a song in a studio all together, and there's a bit of, you know, there's something about that which creates a certain energy, you know, which you can hear on the record. Whereas now people are just sort of sending each other the drums and the guitars and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
work with other people, work and be creative with other people, I think is
Collaboration.
Collaboration, yeah, always.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
because you get more out of it.
Well, and it generally produces a sum that's greater than the sum of its parts. You know, yeah,
Great.
it's generally better than for some reason.
Right. So number 12, the last question, but you've unlocked the bonus. How can a listener get in touch with you?
Best thing to do. Well, my voiceover website is paulalbertsonvo.com. So if you pop there and you can, there's an email. You can email me there at paul@paulalbertson.com. But there's lots of work and stuff on there.
Cool. So we've come to a lovely conclusion. So Paul Albertson, professional actor and voiceover artiste, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. My pleasure.
Oh, it's Challenge Gym time, isn't it?
It is.
What?
I told Nigel he could have a solo. He's been a very good squirrel.
Has he?
Yes, he's been stripping the varnish off that old chair with his needle teeth.
With his teeth?
With his teeth.
Sounds like something I'd write when sober.
Oh, and then we paint the chair gold, and I will have a throne.
What?
If you remember, Her Majesty Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine is currently staying with us due to difficulties with the podcast steam pump and the button. Although I have a new button now.
Oh, bravo, Monsieur B.
Thank you, Queen Eleanor. I mean, Your Majesty.
Well, I suppose it has to be. A new button? Nothing can go wrong, eh?
Nothing, Jim. Absolutely nothing. Want your challenge now?
Yes. Let's get this out of the way. I have writing to do.
Very well, Mr. Jim. And now...
Challenge Jim!
Each episode, we challenge Jim with a creative exercise.
I'm ready.
The challenge this episode, Mr. Jim, is you have 1 minute. 1 minute to pitch a rewrite of a sitcom. And that sitcom is Friends. Go!
Okay.
We're off.
All right, so my sitcom is called Enemies, and it's about a group of people that live together, male and female, of course, and they're American, and they're very, very smug.
And is this the one where they hate each other?
Yes, they all hate each other, because if you hate someone, then you really care about them, don't you?
Buy them a cat.
Well, I wouldn't give them... Well, they could each have a cat, actually. We could have...
The cats hate each other as well?
Well, yeah, the cats naturally hate each other. So it's called Enemies. They live on a big settee, all together,
30 seconds.
just drinking coffee and having takeaway food. Because that's what Americans do, because they can't cook. None of them own a kettle. So how the hell can they make tea? I mean, how can their lives be peaceful? And so they spend a lot of time just swearing at each other.
15 seconds.
It's rather like, how should we put this? Christmas at home with all the family.
10,
those happy times.
8,
but we're being honest,
7,
and we're calling it Enemies.
5.
So get yourself
4,
an enemy, and
3,
you'll have a friend for
2,
life.
1.
Tony's word of the episode. Tony's word of the episode. Tony's word of the episode. Influ pointless. Influ pointless.
Thank you, Tony. The definition of which is social media influencers are pointless.
I'd rather believe in fairies at the bottom of the garden.
Yes, they're useful.
Tony's word of the episode. Tony's word of the episode.
No, I didn't mean that.
Phew.
I've got a new button, you know.
What?
A new button.
What is that crunching noise? Is Nigel gnawing his nuts again?
See, if I press this orange button...
What is Eleanor eating?
Mini cheddars. Well, if I press the orange button...
Mini cheddars, really?
Yeah, she likes a bag or two when she's watching the cricket over the road.
I've really got to get another draft underway. Mini cheddars and cricket. Sometimes, Mr. B, I don't think I'm actually writing this podcast.
Once the orange button is pressed...
It's like Jelly Trumpet has a life of its own.
Now, the interesting part happens when the podcast has built up steam to 90%.
So Her Majesty likes cricket?
Ici Jim. Ici Motom.
I hadn't finished explaining.
Your Majesty?
These people in white. It is a game, no?
It's really cool, you know.
Yes, ma'am, it's called cricket.
Explain the game of cricket to me.
Very well, you have two sides. One side out in the field and one side
not in the field. And what you'll find is that the ones in the field are in and the ones are not in the field are out. So the idea is for the ones that are out to go in, and the idea behind that is the ones that are in to get the ones that are out. It's a very simple game, played and loved throughout the whole of England and Wales and other places.
And I believe the first game was played in Kent in the 16th century.
I see. And they do all of this on horseback?
I suppose I could just switch the podcast off.
No, Your Majesty.
But they should. Much more entertaining. They could use those wands.
Wands?
Those things they hold close to their party's sensibles.
Oh, those are cricket bats.
Yes, bats. They use them as weapons and charge each other. They already have the armour and a large field pour la mêlée. Spectators will thrill at the deaths.
Deaths, Your Majesty?
Oh, say first one to have 5 deaths on their side loses.
That could work, you know.
Yes, that could work. Make cricket a bit more lively, wouldn't it?
I shall write a letter to the Times. We'll have to rebrand it.
How about cricket? Game of death.
That works. Bugger, the button!
Tales from Jim's Medicine Journal.
Working with other people can be exhilarating, no matter your creative sphere. I've written for people and with people and decided only to write on my own. I learnt the hard way that I wanted to write my own stuff. I also learned about working with friends. I learnt that it's not always a good idea unless you put in boundaries. Collaboration can be sublime and a great force of creation. It hits you sometimes when you look back and realise that your original idea is now 2 + 2 and making 10. What I learnt is to be the showrunner, by which I mean the keeper of the flame, staying true to yourself and your vision. By all means, let other ideas in, play with them and see if it works for you. These ideas may even be better than you accept, but if those ideas stray away from what you intended and dilute that original idea, then move past them in a polite but firm manner. The first play I ever put on stage, I wrote with 3 of my friends, all actors in mind. It was sublime. They made the play come alive and we had a lot of fun. The second time I worked with a friend, the original play was diluted because I wasn't strong enough to say no. Be strong enough to say no if the idea doesn't sit right with your imagination. You are the showrunner. Amen. What are you doing, Mr. B?
I'm working on the orange button.
Oh, it looks more of an amber.
With this button. What?
I'd call it amber.
Jim.
Perhaps burnt ochre.
Jim.
No, it's definitely amber.
Jim.
I've always liked amber.
Jim!
Yes?
You're colourblind.
Oh, here's something for you.
Yes?
After the micro sitcom.
Our micro sitcom, The Startup Part 2. Mary the entrepreneur is in a workshop eating for victory in business.
Yes?
This is the Eating for Victory in Business course. Eliminate your appetite, destroy the competition, dominate your marketplace, and look radiant?
Yes!
Oh, right then.
This, my folk, is a picture. A picture to remind you of ill-considered eating. That's right. It's Jeremy Clarkson in swimming trunks. When you are faced with temptation, hold this image in your mind, shudder, and you will follow the path of grace. Seek kale. It is your right, your destiny, to rule by your own iron will, without sugar, without calories, to seek. To seek out all that is calorific, eliminate that pleasure, and radiate purity. By this path, you will destroy the opposition and dominate the marketplace, and yet be radiant. Where are you going?
Starbucks.
So here's the joke again.
Yes?
The barman says we don't serve time travellers in here.
A time traveller walks into a bar.
Oh, you've heard it.
Yes, next week.
Kel?
Fantastic.
Well, it is, isn't it?
What?
It wasn't a pun, was it?
Well, no, not really.
So what are you going to do about it, Motom?
Yes, Motom, this is the 4th draft. The script should work by now.
Monsieur B, he is sore about his button.
What?
Stop changing the subject. What are you going to do about Tony saying puntastic?
I'm going to shoot him in the voice box.
Can I come out now?
That'll teach Tony.
But you wrote it.
Oh, my fingers must have slipped on the keyboard.
What did you load the gun with?
Marmalade.
And Tony is?
Toast. Tony is toast.
Fantastic. List of the week.
This week, things I do in waiting rooms when I don't have a phone. Number 1, tell myself, you idiot, how could you forget your phone? Number 2, look at people. Number 3, imagine the man opposite is a werewolf. Number 4, say to myself, you idiot, why didn't you bring the silver bullet? Number 5, squint at a poster. Number 6, admire a lady's hair. Number 7, wonder if I can play with a Lego. Number 8, say to myself, you idiot, why didn't you bring your glasses? Number 9, wonder why I got here so early. Number 10, I should have polished my shoes. Number 11, wonder what I'm doing at the memory clinic. I'm writing a novel, Mr. B.
Neither am I.
Well, that's a bit harsh.
Well, where is it?
It's on my computer.
Along with the rest of the script for this episode?
Yes.
Are we there yet?
Where?
The bit where I show you my new orange button.
No, not yet. Not long now, though.
Before you ask, that was the blue button.
Oh.
Ways of seeing.
Read something you know you disagree with and see a different point of view. I do this all the time. Why? Well, it's important to see all sides of a story. Can you argue the other side of the case, the one you are greatly opposed to? The point isn't to change your mind. You may do, but that's certainly not the point. The idea is to muster your arguments, prepare yourself for the twists, turns and stupidity of the other side. Why? Well, if you're going to write a hero, you want that hero to go up against someone that can match them. Otherwise, you just have propaganda or fake news in modern political voice, which you could call stupid talk. Anyway, look at whatever you create with a critic's eye.
Jim's work offer.
If you fancy putting on a trilogy of plays, then I have just the trilogy for you, called The Good, The Bad and Italian Bob. Each is based on a different movie genre. Play 1 is heist movies, play 2 westerns, and the third disaster movies. The first play features 4 male actors, the second 4 female actors. They play each other in the other play. In play 3, the 8 actors perform together in an upturned cruise liner in the Caribbean during the zombie apocalypse. Usual stuff for me. So if you fancy a read and putting it on, drop us a line at jelly@jellytrumpet.com.
Join us in further episodes and be more creative. Pick up tips and tricks you can put in the play instantly. Try exercises to boost your imagination. Listen to creative guests. And a whole lot of what we call fun. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or ideas for Jelly Trumpet, email us jelly@jellytrumpet.com. That was Jelly Trumpet, making you more creative with Jim Kinlock and Mr. B. Sponsored by Conversion Detectives, the creative digital marketing agency. Search Conversion Detectives.
And now here's We Paint Houses with their song Angel.
She is wisdom, she is fate, she is everything she makes in life. One step from a come undone, too much sorrow, 2 shots and she's done. One from sorrow's twisted lies, forever in eternity. There she
button, Mr. Jim?
The orange button, Mr. B?
Yes, the orange one!
Very well, Mr. B.
Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Mr. B. Bit of an anticlimax, that, Mr. B.
Yes, it is a bit of a letdown.
Oh, I suppose we should say our thank yous and then I can get on with writing the next episode. Who knows what I'll write next?
Wait, you wrote the orange button not working, didn't you?
Well...
Write that it works the way I wanted it to. Go on!
Very well, Mr. B. I will. In the next episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all those that encourage Jelly Trumpet. Thank you to Mr. Tony for the voice work. Thank you to Miss Claire, the voice of Queen Eleanor and Mary the Entrepreneur. And thank you, Mr. B and Kel. Stay fab.